make sure, can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. As you can probably tell, my mom wrote that bio. But I had an opportunity to come a little earlier tonight and see some of the festivities going on in the program that Tina had planned, and I just wanted to take an opportunity and ask you all to join me in giving her a round of applause as our gracious host for this evening. It is definitely an honor and a privilege to be here tonight at your opening meeting and your joint meeting. I want to thank Bobby and Mauricio for having me tonight. This is wonderful to see everyone together. As we all know, in our field, collaboration is extremely important. I would also be remiss if I did not recognize my colleagues. As Tina mentioned, I am at the Metropolitan Transit Authority of Harris County, affectionately known as Metro. And I'm pleased to be joined by my colleagues, Michael O'Kelly, Michael Boding in the back. Sharonda Murray is joining us. She's our External Relations Officer. And I really do appreciate them coming out. I'm sure you've seen them at many of the meetings, and we've all been active and involved members. I have not been able to make as many meetings as I hoped, but you will be seeing more of me in the future. So I know the hours late, you all have been here for a while, and I recognize I'm standing between you and your TV remote. So as Kim Kardashian said to her last husband, this will not be long. So I just wanted to share with you just some thoughts. Tina and I had talked about some of the topic for tonight, and specifically she wanted to talk about innovation. And wanted to give you a little feedback on Metro and who we are. I'm sure many of you probably born and raised in Houston, or how many of you are new to Houston or relatively new transplants? Okay. I've been here 12 years, but in that time, I'm sure you all have seen our operations around the city, our buses, our trains, been on our HOV lanes commuting. But just to give you a feel for who Metro is, we have 3,000 employees who operate almost 1,300 buses over 1,300 miles around the city. Obviously, you've seen our light rail line. It's been a topic of discussion for many years, and we're continuing to expand and grow that. Again, we have one of the most robust hot lanes, HOV lanes in the country. And then, of course, we provide a very extensive paratransit service. And what does that all mean? In terms of day-to-day operations, we serve 112 million boardings a day. And those are individuals who are going to work, going to school, going to the airport, whatever you need, you name, we have it. We provide service to those who this is the only option that they have, and we provide service to those who choose and encourage and support public transportation, and we're proud to do so. We have a traditional procurement operation, probably mirroring many of your own. We have our procurement division, we have our material management division, and we have our small business division. We are a governmental agency, and so it's very important to us to manage the public dollars very carefully. We do have a federal mandate as well as a local agency mandate on small business to make sure that our vendors reflect the community that we're in. And we have a wonderful staff of 117 people who are committed on a daily basis to making sure that we're the best in class in the business. Just to give you a snapshot of what Metro looks like in an annual year, this is for FY15, but this pretty much rounds out our numbers of what we do on an annual basis. We administer over 200 contracts pretty much on an annual basis. Sometimes it may fluctuate if we have major projects going on at the time. As you recall, our rail program went on for a number of years and is now entering completion. We do a substantial amount of purchase orders, as you'll see, and that averages about 8,000 or more from year to year. And we put out between 80 to 100 solicitations, and you'll see the further breakdown. The bulk of those come in our invitation to bids. And then, of course, the following requests for proposals and qualifications we do as well. And so, again, those numbers fluctuate somewhat, but that is about, on average, what we do from year to year. Our biggest area, of course, is inventory. You have 1,300 pieces of equipment running the streets and roads of Houston. We need a lot of inventory to keep those items moving. Our key priority is to keep the service running. And so our inventory department, our materials management group does an excellent job of doing just that. We have very few buses that are down on any given day, and we are very good at keeping just-in-time inventory. I mentioned our small business program. We are actively involved in vendor recruitment of small businesses, and we have two programs. We have a small business enterprise program, which is an agency-determined program by our board of directors. We have a very aggressive goal, one of the highest in the city, of 35%. We have been achieving that 35% for the last 4 years. 2 years ago, we were at 73%. The year before that, at 50%. So we're constantly pushing the envelope on what we can do to make sure that we have a diverse supplier base. We also have a federally dictated program, what we call the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. As federal recipients of funds, we are required to have a DBE program, and we have a goal that is established by federal formula. That formula is calculated over a 3-year basis at 16%. Last 3-year arc, we achieved 18%. We've just recalculated the goal for the next 3 years, and we're now at 17%, so we continue to go up. And we will continue to work and network and communicate with the community about opportunities at Metro to encourage them to bid. We have our own certification program in-house where we certify small businesses to participate in the program. If you are not familiar, I encourage you to look at our website. All the information is there, and if you know firms who are interested in joining our team, we'd love to have them. So, to the topic that Tina asked me to speak about, I gave you a little snapshot on Metro and who we are. When we talked about innovation, I was a little nervous about the topic for the simple fact that transit is not known as being necessarily innovators. We're an old industry, over 100 years old. We're an iteration of the railroad industry. When they say it's not your father's industry, railroad and transportation services very much are. If you go to transit agencies around the country, we follow a formula that we've been using for decades. Very successful, very well run. We've had very few changes in the industry, except for maybe the advent of the automobile, maybe the advent of taxi cabs. We pretty much have been in this space exclusively. In being a governmental agency, we also are not necessarily incentivized to innovate oftentimes. I mean, we are the regional transportation provider, period. There's not much competition there, and usually competition is needed to kind of spur investment and innovation and new thoughts. But, effectively, we are the only game in town. We are not an industry that runs on profit. There is no such thing as a profitable transit agency. We all run on a deficit. We all are subsidized, every single one. New York, Boston, you name it. We are a public necessity. Whether the economy is strong or weak, Metro will run. Whether there are 10,000 cars on the road or 10 million, Metro will run. What we do every day is make sure that we have service running and that we're getting the best value for taxpayer money in doing so. So we do look at costs, we do look at efficiency, but quite frankly, the constant motivation to innovate is not there as it is in other industries. Until these guys showed up. The buzzword around the industry is disruption, disruptors. Everybody wants to disrupt everything. It sounds very anarchy. We're in the industry, we don't do anarchy well, we don't do change well. What we have works, it's been working, it's always worked. But these situations have pushed us a little bit out of our comfort zone. You all obviously, recognize the symbol at the top. The symbol at the bottom are iterations of other transportation providers that have come along in that time. Believe it or not, Uber is barely 5 years old. It's a new, it hasn't been around 10 years, barely 5 years. And yet it has done a major transformation in the industry. People see this service, they see this flexibility, and they're like, well, why can't we have it everywhere? And so that has pushed us to look at efficiencies in a number of ways. I'd say in the 9 years I've been in the industry, probably the first 3 were pretty traditional. But the last 5 or 6, at the national meetings that we attend around the country at different trade meetings, the conversations come up. How can we change? How can we be different? Metro obviously has done the core focus on transportation. We have revamped our whole bus system. I'm sure you all have heard of a new bus network, or have you? Okay, maybe not. But Metro has taken on an aggressive reformation of its bus system, one of the largest efforts in the country. We have other transit agencies from all over the U.S. coming to see how we did it. We changed our entire bus system from top to bottom. That was our first innovation, if you will, to kind of sit back and look and take a step back and look at how we do business and how we can do it better. We now have next bus arrival. We now have an app where you can go on and book buy your ticket online, see your schedule online. We're adopting all of these things that, quite frankly, are not considered very transit, but we're moving into a space and we're moving more and more into that area. So now that we've kind of gotten the transit service together, we now are looking inward and looking at how we can make our general process more efficient and work more smoothly. Excellence. Excellence is something we always focus on. But one of the things we had to recognize is we're not excellent in everything. Meaning we're not subject matter experts on all the new technologies that are out there. I mean, Uber called us flat-footed, just to be honest. That technology, that flexibility, that idea, yeah, everybody loved it, everybody thought of it. Nobody had come up with it until now. So we realized that we needed to get out of our ivory tower. And so what we've started doing in terms of procurements is we have started putting out what we call requests for information. Before we put out a procurement, we don't tell you every nut and bolt and spec and criteria that we're looking for. We simply ask the community of vendors, this is what we're trying to achieve and this is what we want to do. Come in and tell us how you would do it. And we've done that successfully with 2 major procurements most recently. One is healthcare. It was time for us to renew our healthcare policy for our employees. Well, everyone is familiar with Obamacare. That was a major shift for employers in how we provide healthcare to our employees. And when 6 years ago, when we did the first iteration of our healthcare contract, Obamacare didn't exist. And we had such a short time to figure it out and understand it that we weren't comfortable just coming up with a spec on our own. So we invited the healthcare community to come in and show us what they had. We were surprised to learn during that process that hospitals are now in the healthcare game. They weren't 6 years prior. It was true healthcare plans that provided healthcare services and programs. But now hospitals were coming in and making pitches and talking about what they could do. And they understood the rules and regulations far better than we did. They knew how we could take advantage of some of the benefits of the different programs. And so we did ultimately put out a procurement, a formal procurement for those services. But we were able to take advantage of the information we gleaned from those requests for information. And so part of what's been innovative for us is not being so prescriptive, is really going out there and taking advantage of these disruptors that are out there who are looking to come in and do something, who may have shied away from approaching governmental agencies because of all the strict rules and regulations. We wanted to hear what they had to say. We wanted to see what was out in the market and know what we didn't know, and be able to ask questions that we didn't know the answers to yet. The other procurement we did that with was our paratransit service. Again, another procurement we do on a 6-year arc. Obviously, our paratransit is our most vulnerable community, and we obviously get a lot of feedback from them about the service that we offer. And so we said, again, we have Uber and Lyft and other agencies out there that says, look, we can do paratransit better. And so we're like, okay, come in and show us. Previously, we might not have been as open to that, but again, we're recognizing that there's so much new technology and every day things are changing. And the reality of procurement is that things are done in years, where in technology things are done in months, sometimes even weeks. And so we have to learn how to adapt and be quicker and more nimble. And so that was one of the things that we did to focus on excellence. The other thing we focused on is strategic partnerships. And I know the guys in the back are looking like that's not our train. And it's not. It's not. What we've done in pursuing strategic partnerships is we've looked at other agencies who have been have had more transit service than we have in certain areas. Our rail program is growing, it's expanding, but admittedly there are some cities that are well ahead of us. If you've been to Dallas lately, even Austin, we have 22 miles, Dallas has 100. Then there are cities like that all over the country, quite frankly, that have been doing rail longer than we have and have worked out all the kinks, gone through all the issues, and found the best in the industry. In the case of Metro, we found that partner in Utah, and we were able to do a piggyback contract on their procurement contract for new rail vehicles. Their rail vehicles were state-of-the-art. They had already done the legwork, they had already done the research, they had already done the visits, they had already done the inspections and the testing. So we were able to take advantage of that. And so that's the other thing I encourage you in doing innovation. You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are partners out there that are already doing those things for you. The other thing that we looked at in terms of strategic partnerships is our counterparts overseas. Metro was fortunate last year to get the American Public Transportation Association Award, that's a mouthful, for Best Transit Agency in the United States. APTA, however, is an international organization, and one of the things we did is we looked at our partners in Canada. In Canada, we have, similar to us, they have cooperative purchasing agreements, but theirs work differently than ours do. We have cooperative purchasing agreements with Texas. They'll go out, they'll pre-negotiate rates, and a group of vendors or agencies like ourselves will take advantage of that. But in Canada, what they've done is they brought all the agencies under one umbrella. They've asked each of them, what is it that you will procure in the coming years? And then they go out and they negotiate for those particular items in a bundle, and then they feed those back into the agency. So it works slightly differently than our cooperative purchasing agreement. But again, it's about strategic partnering. It is about looking at how you can leverage those different programs and activities. And it does require sharing of information, sharing of details, specifications, maybe being more flexible in your specifications so you can be a part of that bundle and take advantage of that. And so those are some of the things that we looked at. And finally, leveraging technology. This is something obviously is key if you're going to do any innovation. Whenever anyone talks innovation, they're usually talking about technology. And we have come a long way in terms of procurement, from pen and paper to very sophisticated enterprise systems that run vendor management, procurement operations, and bring everything online. When I came across this, I was surprised at how low this number is. I'm personally blind as can be, but you'll see, those of you who can't see this, the first number, 31%, are respondents to a government survey on procurement where they do not have the ability to post bids and RFPs online. How many of you are in that 31%? Okay, good. See, I'm glad somebody's in me. we are one of those as well. We kind of have half of this. We have the ability to post. We do not have the ability for people to respond online yet. The next metric is 36% that have a standalone procurement system that is not connected to their financial system. Now, how many are in the 36%? Okay, we are as well. And we are changing both of those. We are currently in the process of implementing SAP, and I'm not going to be an SAP commercial. Just sharing with you that that's who we selected to give us a total enterprise system. We now have HR on it, and finance and procurement will go live October 5th. Our material management group is light years ahead of us. They've already been on a module of SAP for several years. So they get to take it easy while we sweat learning all this new stuff. But that piece is critical. And I bring it to your attention because, again, looking at those numbers, I'm impressed that so many of you don't fall in this category. But those are really low numbers of folks who don't have those technologies in place today. And again, it comes with collaboration. For our agency, being a governmental agency for years, procurement has asked for resources to improve and streamline our operations. And as you know, the industry has grown. It's been difficult for us to get those resources. Procurement is now at a point in its growth that we are now at the table. We're considered a strategic partner. And so we've been able to get these resources, but we did that by collaborating with our financial group, with our HR group, to say, okay, let's do this together and see if we can encourage our upper management to make sure that they understand the importance and the benefits of having this in place. We could not have done it alone. And I'll tell you, we have been doing it alone, and we've done very well considering. But the bottom line is we have one module Oracle, one module of SAP, and 30 other legacy systems. It is a testament to the staff that they have been able to get it to work. And it is our responsibility as leaders, as managers, to make sure that they no longer have to do that, which is why we're bringing in SAP to take some of that weight off of their shoulders, because they have done a yeoman's job with so many different systems. And so I encourage you to look at your operations if you haven't already, and look at partnering with other divisions to see if you can implement these resources into your area. Communication is an important part of any and everything that we do. I always have this slide here. It's not an innovation, but yet it's the thing that we have the most difficulty doing. None of this will work. Our vendor management, our procurement management, our internal management, without communications. And so these are important things that we try to do at every level of the organization. Our board members now sit on evaluation teams for procurements, because we wanted them to experience firsthand what we do and get them involved. And it has helped change the conversation internally. They see the amount of work, the effort, the details that go into it, not just on the procurement side, but also for the vendors. And so that level of engagement is important. And obviously we're always interfacing with our stakeholders and looking to do that on a more regular basis. So I know tonight's conversation in recognition of supply chain coordinators, and I wanted to take the opportunity to those who are in that role and to really take advantage of the opportunities that ISM and Apex provide. And I want to say thank you for what you do. I've been fortunate to be a part of the transportation industry and in procurement, and I'm kind of in the sandwich. I have the opportunity on the national committees that I work with to work with a very group of seasoned professionals who have basically paved the way for how we operate today. Coming out of public transportation, many of them are government. They're federal government, former military, and they have really set up the template that a lot of us still use today. On the flip side, here locally at home, we have a lot of new people coming in to the profession. And it's interesting because when I'm on these committees, the seasoned professionals, they didn't have the education, the networking, the certifications, or even the degree programs that you have today. And then I see folks coming in and they've got more alphabets than I can name. But that's a testament to ISM and to Apex, who have really worked hard to provide these opportunities to the industry, to have that dialogue, to educate everyone, different industries across the board, about the strategic role that procurement plays in everything that we do. So I commend you for that effort, and we look forward to being more involved and engaged. And I, again, thank you for allowing me to come out tonight. I appreciate the time to talk to you and share with you. A couple people have asked me if I'm going to be here afterwards. I will be. And again, I look forward to coming and joining you once again. And with that, I'll say thank you and good night.
I know you already said good night. I don't know if there's any folks who have questions. If you're willing to stay with us for maybe 10, 15 more minutes.
Sure, no problem.
Y'all better have questions though. I do have a question.
Yeah, quick question. You mentioned the contract that you piggyback off of. Because you're technically in the public sector, did you have to create an interlocal agreement for that?
No, we didn't. We do have to go through the Federal Transit Administration, and I apologize. I use the term FTA, and I assumed everybody here knows, but we're bad about using acronyms. But FTA is the Federal Transit Administration. They are a regulatory body, and so we did the process involving FTA because all of our vehicles have federal financing involved, and so did Utah's, and so we have to coordinate that with them. So we did not do it for local.
Oh, thank you.
where do you see the challenges and opportunities going forward as far as the next year, 5 years going forward? What's your perspective?
Well, Bobby and I talked about this a bit. I think the biggest challenge for public transit in particular is the culture shift. As I mentioned, opening ourselves up to the notion of, okay, we're not going to detail every part of what we're looking for. We're going to actually leave it up to the community to give us some feedback, their thoughts, and some innovation. So I think as procurement professionals, we have to be ready to think of ways to do that. Technology is evolving so quickly, and there are people constantly moving into this space. And we are balancing wanting to give customers what they want, the newest and latest gadgets, but also recognizing this is a serious responsibility. When we put people in that vehicle, that's something we take very seriously. And so you can't just be a company that pops up. And so that how do we reconcile the need for wanting to keep moving into this innovative space while doing our due diligence to make sure that we're providing solid, reliable service that's sustainable, because we can't have a vendor in doing something as important as fair transit going out of business, or deciding they're going to pull out the market, or deciding they want to change the rules in the middle of the course. So those are the things that we're trying to balance, and we haven't quite found the right fit. I think transit has come a long way in opening itself up to those new ideas and technologies, because I think culture shift is probably the biggest challenge we'll face.
I wanted to thank you for a very enlightening presentation. I'm going to start off with 2 compliments, and then I have a question.
Thank you.
The compliment is Metro. You mentioned the fact collaboration, and I want to say that Metro does an excellent job of collaborating across all spectrums. Sharonda all the time, but in particular, for example, our national sorority met here last year, and Metro developed a special ride card with the sorority's name on it, and these are people coming across the nation, and it played extremely well. So I compliment Metro on being that kind of organization. Now, my question is this. Oh, the second compliment, I've always wanted to know what the APTA award, because I'm part of Ride Right.
Okay.
I always say on the bus, I said, oh, that's what it stands for.
Yes.
But congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I didn't ask you. I forgot, I should. Here is my question. You know, a lot of things have changed because of terrorism, cybersecurity, and just security in general, physical security. What is Metro doing, or what adjustments have you had to make in light of what's happening worldwide?
Well, that's a great question, particularly in light of the anniversary of 9/11. We've always recognized the service as a potential target, and so we've always had security in place. But obviously, after 9/11, things have been tightened up substantially. Metro is one of several transit agencies around the U.S. that has its own police department, and they are certified peacekeeping officers. So that's obviously one, and they're dedicated to making sure the service is safe every iteration. From the, they ride on the buses, plain clothes, they're on the trains, they're on the HOVs, making sure that that's addressed. We do a great deal of training. We have a relationship with the Center for Transportation at Texas Southern University. And we've gotten grants from the federal government to do terrorism exercises, mock exercises, to make sure that our staff is prepared, not just the police officers, but also the operators and staff working on the facility. We have equipment. We have a dog squad. We have a bomb squad. We have a tank. We have a boat. We're ready. And we now have fare collectors. Some of you who've been on the rail platforms recently, we have fare collectors. They're not in Metro uniforms. They're in safety jackets. But part of their scope, in addition to checking fares, is also to monitor the trains, make sure that people know that there's a presence, that they're being watched. Obviously, we have all the technological gadgets and wizards you can imagine. There were cameras everywhere. we have cameras on the platforms, on the train, and so we are constantly working with different other police agencies to do that. We also have TransStar, and I don't know how many of you know it. You probably know it from your morning news. You'll see a little thing, TransStar emblem at the corner of your screen in the morning. That is primarily a Metro facility. It's a partnership that Metro has created with different entities around the region to keep up with everything, not just us, but roads, trains, everything, and we share that information. And so we have a unit that works out of TransStar and manages that. When incidents happen, hurricanes, if there was to be a terrorist event, that everything would be handled on TransStar is prepared for that. So. Any other questions?
Going back to your conversation, your presentation, you mentioned at one point that all major metropolitan transportation systems basically operate with us. And I was just wondering, with increasing challenges in terms of budget and, as we're doing supply chain professionals, we always get asked to do more than less. How is Metro addressing that situation? And is there short-term or long-term plan to either reduce that gap or to eliminate?
So, great question. The short-term solution for us today has been, in the subsidy that we get, it comes from 2 additional places. Obviously, we do collect fares, and that makes up a portion of our operating budget. But the other 2/3 come from the government, federal government particularly, and then also from sales tax. And so that is how we make up the gap. Obviously, we would love to reduce our reliance on subsidies and as much as possible. But as a public necessity, as a governmental agency, we don't have a lot of elasticity in our pricing. It's raising our fares has substantial impact to our customers. And so we did a fare change probably about 8 years ago now, and that had been the first time in like 15 years. And every year there's a conversation about, is it time to raise fares or how to raise fares? And it usually fails. We are a political entity. Majority of our board is appointed by the mayor of the city of Houston. The remaining members are appointed by mayors of the small cities that make up our service. And so they're very sensitive to our customers and who's being served. And so we don't have a lot of wiggle room there, unfortunately. And I should say unfortunately, but as far as your question about managing the budget, that's not much of an option for us. So what we've had to do is increase our grant-making request. And obviously the federal government is reducing its support of transit across the nation. And we're also competing against entities that are larger and in more dense areas. Most of the transportation dollars go to the East Coast. And then when they had the big storm last year, even more of the resources went. That was always when we would go to DC and ask for more money. Well, we've got to help, New York because they just had the storm. And, it's hard to argue with that. Those are valid points. So we've had to, again, look inward and how we can be more efficient. The fare collectors was an idea to make sure that people were paying the fare and trying to maximize how much we get in the fare box to help offset things. We're also trying to make the service appealing to what we call choice riders. A lot of our riders take Metro and they have vehicles and they have other options, but they prefer the convenience of it. And we want to continue to refine our service to make sure we maximize that and get more people on the service. So that's the other thing that we're looking at. In the long term, though, I don't see us getting rid of the subsidy altogether. We just like to shift off of it, a bit more. Because again, the ability to raise fares is just not there. Internally, we do have 2 groups. One is what we call a lean group, Six Sigma. Are you all familiar with that? They have gone and reviewed different programs for cost-cutting measures. I know they've gone out to materials and looked at some functions there. We now have a group called Innovation. And they're looking at ways to look at technology, how it can be brought in, looking at new revenue streams. And so we're looking at all of those pieces to try and maximize service. But right now, that is where we are. And we're, again, as I mentioned, we're not unique. Even robust systems that have, high density like New York and Boston, they're not running at a profit either. It's just a very difficult space to do that because you can't charge what it costs. And then you talk about paratransit, that's a very expensive service, very expensive, like almost $25 a person. Obviously, we can't charge that. So, so those are the things that we're looking at. And I encourage you, for those in the room, for those of you who are Metro users, thank you. Those who are not, I encourage you to take the system, enjoy it, because you are paying for it. Your tax dollars are supporting it. I encourage you to get involved in it, find out what's going on, be a part of this conversation, this dialogue, because we are looking for ideas. As I mentioned, we're open. Like if you have an idea of how we can be more efficient, how we can streamline service, how we can be a revenue generator, we'll take it. There are some things, and I'll take you next, I saw your hand. We would love to advertise, but the city feeling about that, and not when I say city, not city government, but they're, okay, Scenic Houston, I'll just say it, wonderful organization, great people, but they're adamantly opposed to visual clutter. So we do not, you don't advertise millions of dollars, millions. But, again, we're in a political space. So our options are fairly limited. And this gentleman in the back has a question?
Well, thank you for coming, Steve. I'm just wondering, what is your annual budget? What is your budget for diesel fuel? And what are your plans for, if any, for moving towards natural gas buses and or electric?
Okay. And I'm going to ask some help on the fuel question if you guys know. I know our annual budget ranges from about 1.2 to 1.5 billion annually. You mentioned we have 3,000 employees, so about the bulk of that is union. And so the bulk of that money goes toward their salaries, and then the rest of it maintain the service from there. As far as the fuel cost, I want to say, I'm not going to give you a bad number. And we just did it, and I'm drawing a blank on the number, but it is substantial, I'll say that. We are moving to CNG. We have built a CNG facility at one of our operating facilities that is up and running. We are getting CNG buses in, and I believe 50 have come in already, and another 50 are coming, or do we have all 100 in? I know it was 100. It was 50 at a time. I think the next 50 are coming in the spring. And so we are moving to that and looking to reduce our fuel costs considerably. And I'm sorry to the oil and gas people in the room. But trust me, we're still a good bet. Because we have diesel, gasoline, we use both. And so we are trying to move to that space. It is expensive for us on the startup though, because our facilities have to be retrofitted to accommodate it and be rebuilt. So that is what's slowing us down on converting completely to CNG. It's just the infrastructure cost to implement it initially.
And you mentioned while that you see like an increase in the wastewater, maybe that's then you mentioned the lack of advertising. So is it just through word of mouth and logistically how is that been handled? And then the Super Bowl coming, how logistically is that handled?
So the way we've handled it is we have come up with a peace treaty, and that says that we can advertise our service on our rolling stock. So you mentioned, seeing the APTA sign, and what is that? We can advertise just our service on our rolling stock, and so you'll see emblems on the buses, Park and Ride, City Bus, not on paratransit, and on the trains. We have toed the line a little With the rail vehicles, you've seen wraps. Sometimes you've seen them wrap with different activities, like go to the museum district or what have you. So we've been given a little leeway to advertise assets along the route. And we can only charge the cost of wrap. There's no profit. We can only charge what it costs to wrap the vehicle. And so, Christmas time downtown, we'll do that. If there's theater district, open house, we may do that. But the person requesting it has to pay for the wrap, and it's not particularly expensive. But so we've done that. As far as Super Bowl and major events, I mean, this isn't obviously our first Super Bowl, nor is our first, and we've done NCAA and others. It is word of mouth. We develop strong relationships with the hotels all throughout downtown, the medical center, and near the airports. The head of our operations is the head of transportation for all of Super Bowl. We are interfacing with all the Super Bowl volunteers to make sure that they're educated and have information and literature on Metro and where they can go and how they can get on. So a lot of it is word of mouth. And a lot of it is convenience. So we are branching out to the apartment buildings. I don't know if anybody's been downtown recently, but there's a crane everywhere. There are downtown towers in areas, that previously, downtown was not residential. It now is. There are 10 towers down Main Street now, and more coming. So we try and talk to all the apartment complexes, make sure that they're aware of what routes exist. When you get the new tenant package, we're in it. Convention and Visitors Bureau, we have a strong relationship with them, making sure that when conventioners come into town, they get material on how to use the service. Again, we've introduced the app so people can jump on and figure where they're going, pay for their fare online, and all of those things. So we're trying to jump into this disruptor space and make sure that we're represented and present because we want to be at play. We have a great service. We want everybody to use it and take it, and we don't want us to be the best kept secret.
One more question. Time for one more.
Oh, okay. Are there any more? Going once, going twice? Thank you.